When it comes to books, we can clearly divide people into three main groups. First group is traditional group, is people who like to read books in a hardcover like they were invented to be read. That group kinda enjoys the aesthetics of reading, the physical touch of the book, and that group also tend to not like other two groups that I'm about to mention. Then there are also people who got themselves the Kindle and read from the Kindle. I personally think that it's a great thing to do, and I'm gonna touch more on it later. And the last group are people who listen to books. And as you got from the title of the video, I'm gonna focus more on this group and tell you why I joined this movement and what I think about it. And then there's another group who just, reads from their phones or computers, but we're talking about normal people here. Alright, I'm just kidding, but I just personally don't know how people can read from computers or phones for a longer period of time. My eyes just hurt so much if I do that. Anyways, let's get to the video and let me tell you about what method I like the most, but also let me tell you about advantages and disadvantages of each of them and if any of them is actually better than the other one. Before I go through that, my name is Slav. I really appreciate that you're watching this video, and if you can like, comment and subscribe to this channel, I would deeply appreciate it. Let's go to the video. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, the first group is traditional readers, and they usually don't like innovations that much. I mean, they might, but when it comes to books, they like that traditional style. They like that original culture of books. They like to feel the book, to open it, to actually hold it in their hands and have that physical touch to the book, right? And that's actually very understandable because a lot of books have really nice covers, and in some books, pages are designed completely different, so there's a lot of value in having that physical copy of the book. But besides those points for having a physical book, why there are so many people who listen to books actually? I mean, are audiobooks not that bad at the end of the day? Look, I've been using Audible for the last 2 or 3 months, and for those of you who don't know, Audible is the app created by Amazon where you can actually listen to a lot of books. They have their entire ecosystem there, so it's basically the main app if you want to listen to books, right? And as I said, I've completely switched to this app for the last 2 or 3 months, but before I give you my opinion, let's see what smart people on the internet have to say. I mean, people who are actually qualified to share their opinions, right? I found some info about audiobooks into Western Downs Libraries, which is a huge group of libraries proudly funded and supported by the Queensland government and State Library of Queensland. I'm just telling you all of that to confirm their legitimacy and basically tell you that we should probably listen to their opinion. So here's what they have to say. Audiobook increases reading accuracy by 52%, increased reading speed, expanding vocabulary and improving fluency. Teach pronunciation, improve comprehension by 76%, and on top of that you can improve your test score. So without a doubt, that's a pretty significant list of advantages, and from here we can already tell that listening to the books can already hold a lot of value, right? But all that was is scientific data. Let me share with you my own opinion and observations that I built during those 2-3 months that I was using Audible. Because I feel that my explanations will be a little more user-friendly. So let me first introduce you to my reading journey. When I was growing up in Ukraine, I loved physical books. I was living in my apartment with my parents, I had where to store them, so I was getting a lot of them, and they were a little cheaper back then, so it was just a great journey. I, fell in love with reading. And as I mentioned before, I really liked that physical touch of the book, going through pages. It was a little entertaining for me as a young child, right? But then when I was 15, I moved to Poland. I was fully focused on playing basketball, and I was living in the dorms, moving from one place to another often, so I didn't really have a lot of space to store those books. And that's why I got myself a Kindle. I was practicing a little bit of piracy sometimes, so I was not always paying for those books, but it was a great experience. I was paying for the majority of them still, and it was just easier to carry Kindle with me instead of carrying all those books whenever I go, so it made sense for that period of my life. And then finally I moved to US. I used a mixture of physical books and Kindle, and then I tried Audible, and let me tell you about my experience finally. So what did I learn in those 2-3 months that I was using it? Is it a game changer? Well, is it going to be for you? I don't know, but for me it completely is. First of all, I have a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I feel that I'm constantly on that go mode, right? I go from place to another place, I'm constantly doing something. So no matter if I buy a physical book, I usually don't have that time to read it. I mean, I do have time, but I just don't prioritize it that much, right? But I love reading, so I thought what I can do about it. And now whenever I'm on that go, as I've mentioned, and whenever I go on a bike from home to work, or whenever I drive a car, I can just listen to a book. It's just mind-blowing that I was not using it before. Before that, I would need to find a half an hour or an hour from my day to sit down in the chair and completely focus on a physical book. But now I can ride a bike, I can clean, something that doesn't require a lot of brain activity, and I can literally listen to the book and still focus on the book completely. So that is one of the main reasons why it is a game changer for me. As a second benefit for me personally comes the fact that English is not my first language. Either way, I bet you could tell it by now, right? But I feel like listening to audiobooks a lot and listening to that native speech helps me to actually understand and comprehend it better, as those facts mentioned at the beginning. And eventually it helps me to understand English better and communicate better, right? Because if I understand someone else, I can at least understand what they're talking about and communicate with them. So that's definitely a big plus, and even if you're an English native speaker, audiobooks can still help you because you're gonna just comprehend the information better. You'll be able to increase your understanding of information when you get it through your ears, right? But here's one, and probably one of the most important benefits that I found for myself by using Audible. I can read faster. I meant to say listen faster, but you know what I mean. So here's the deal, when you read a book, you actually limit it to the amount of words and pages you can read per minute or per hour, right? I mean, you can be a faster reader or a slower reader, but you still have your limit, correct? And that's why the ability to speed up or slow down the recording in Audible is just such an amazing feature. Being honest with you, I constantly use it, and I cannot recall really a book that I was listening in less than 1.25 speed. And I found this feature so important. If I would read a book, as I've mentioned before, I would not be able to get to this speed. So me liking to be productive, I'm able to get more knowledge in a shorter time. And for me, it's just about efficiency at this point. It just makes sense. And all of that sounds fancy and dandy, but are there any drawbacks when listening to the book? And as you would expect, there are some, obviously. One of them is that the recording voice sometimes can be hard to understand. Either it's AI copying human voice and trying to tell you the story, or either it's a human telling you the story. Sometimes their voice can be hard to understand. And that's when it can get tough to follow some fragments of the story or the entire story itself. But luckily, it doesn't happen very often, and majority of recordings are really nice. Another huge drawback that you guys are probably thinking about is taking notes. While if it's an adventure book, you might not necessarily need to take notes, right? But if it's a productivity book or entrepreneurship, you might need to take a lot of notes actually. And that is probably the biggest drawback that listening to books have. I mean, Audible has a feature where you can capture the fragment you're listening to, I think it's 15-second forward and 15-second back, and it will add it to your favorites that later you can listen to again and take some notes. But it's still kind of complicated to use in a sense that, you know, if you're driving a car, you're not gonna stop and click to add that fragment, right? I mean, when you are driving a bike or riding a car, you're probably not gonna stop, add it to your favorites, and then come back to it, etc, etc. So it is definitely a drawback, but it's still possible to do, right? In the worst case scenario, books are staying in your library in Audible, so you can listen to them again and again anytime. And last huge drawback is actually dependence on technology. Look, we live in technology world, and a lot of people, especially the traditional group that I mentioned at the beginning, like to hold the book in their hands without being dependent on any piece of technology. And I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, but the truth is, for me, the advantages of listening to books are still more powerful than those drawbacks I have. So I'm probably gonna keep listening to them. Now let's answer the question, should you make a switch and start listening to books instead of reading them? I don't know. Audiobooks work greatly for me, but are they gonna work for you? I don't know. But if you like the benefits and features I mentioned before, I mean, you should definitely give it a try. I know that Audible has a free trial, so maybe you should sign up and at least try, right? It's not gonna hurt. In the worst case, you will not like it and go back to traditional reading or a Kindle. Thank you so much guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please like this video, comment, subscribe, and check out other videos on my channel. And I'll see you in the next one.